You know that feeling when you're driving a familiar route home from work and you suddenly pull into your driveway and realize you have absolutely zero memory of the last 5 miles?
Oh, yeah. Like your brain just totally checks out.
Exactly. Your hands were on the wheel, but you were just completely on autopilot.
Right. The car basically knows the way, your muscle memory takes over, and your conscious mind is just, along for the ride.
Yeah, and I mean, it's harmless enough on a random Tuesday commute. But imagine for a second that's not just your drive home. Imagine that's your entire life.
That is a terrifying thought.
It really is. Like,
Hmm.
you wake up at 9 a.m., you go to a job, you return at 9 p.m., just completely drained, and you feel this constant heavy pressure of EMIs, your monthly loan payments, credit cards, and just this low-level hum of financial anxiety.
Right.
And suddenly you look up and 3, maybe 4 years have passed and there's been absolutely no real growth, no real joy. You just feel like someone else is holding the remote control to your life.
Yeah, it is an incredibly relatable and frankly pretty terrifying scenario. It's what financial strategists often call the middle-class autopilot trap.
The autopilot trap.
Wow. Yeah, because we just get so accustomed to the pain of the routine that we stop looking for the exit. We just accept it as normal.
Well, today we're going to try and find that exit. We're tearing apart 3 massive financial playbooks to build a fluff-free escape hatch.
Love it.
Our mission in this deep dive is to synthesize these sources into a highly actionable blueprint for your financial freedom. So we're going to journey from the psychology of why we stay broke into the brutal, undeniable math of wealth, and finally we'll break down the exact assets that will actually buy your life back.
And we really have to start with that psychology because, before we can even look at spreadsheets or stock portfolios or real estate trends, we have to dismantle the mental traps that keep us broke.
Right, the root cause.
Exactly. Because if you don't fix the operating system, your mindset, basically the mathematical software, just won't run. It's so true. And to anchor this, let's look at a really striking case study highlighted in the sources. It centers on a guy named Arian.
Oh, right, Arian's story.
Yeah, so he's 25 years old, starts his career with these massive, vibrant dreams. He wants the prestige, the independence, the happiness. But almost immediately, the reality of the job sets in.
It becomes a grind.
It becomes a total grind. Then it actually starts to feel like a jail cell. And what does he do to cope? He falls into the trap of trying to look the part.
Like lifestyle inflation.
Exactly. He's buying designer clothes, the latest phone, he's out at expensive bars every weekend, and his savings, an absolute zero.
And we have to be careful not to just judge Arian here because this isn't necessarily a moral failing.
Yeah.
No, it's a biological trap designed by modern consumerism. I mean, after a 12-hour shift, your brain is entirely depleted of willpower.
Oh, for sure. You're just exhausted.
Exactly. So you buy the expensive gadget or the $100 dinner, not because you're foolish with math, but because you are desperate for a chemical reward, a hit of dopamine, just to make the week feel worth it.
Right. He's trying to medicate the exhaustion of the grind with consumption.
That makes so much sense. But Arian actually gets a wake-up call. He runs into a college friend. Same age, exact same socioeconomic background, same degree.
But a totally different reality.
Totally different. This friend has his own place, a car, he travels, and most importantly, he's living without that visible, heavy stress of constantly counting his pennies.
Which has to be a gut punch.
Oh, that moment absolutely crushes Arian. He spends the whole night staring at his ceiling, asking himself, what did I do all this hard work for? So he hits a hard reset.
And that reset begins with understanding a fundamental structural difference in how people view their paychecks.
Yeah, break that down for us.
What's fascinating here is the sequence of events that happens in the brain on payday. When someone with a scarcity or poor mindset receives a salary, the very first question the brain asks is, what can I buy?
I mean, I've definitely been there.
We all have. They immediately pay everyone else first. The tech giant for the new phone, the restaurant owner, the landlord, and then they try to save whatever tiny fraction is left over at the end of the month.
Which, let's be honest, is usually lint and a few coins.
Precisely. But the wealthy mindset flips that sequence entirely. The absolute first thing they do when the money hits the account is allocate cash to savings and investments.
They pay themselves first.
Exactly. They pay themselves first. Then they plan their expenses around whatever is remaining. It sounds almost too simple, but it is a radical psychological shift.
Because it changes the whole focus.
Right. Financial freedom isn't some distant island you eventually sail to. It's a daily transformation in how you direct your resources.
And the sources provide a highly practical way to execute this, right?
Yeah.
the wealth bucket strategy.
Yes, the buckets.
Because the core issue is that if you keep all your money in one single bank account, your brain just sees a massive pile of cash and signals you that it's safe to spend it.
Right, it looks like an endless supply.
Exactly. So you divide it into 4 intentional buckets. Bucket 1 is essentials rent, groceries, basic utilities. That's your stability.
Makes sense.
Bucket 2 is investments, mutual funds, stocks, digital assets. This is your growth engine, and you fill this one first.
Crucial step.
Then bucket 3 is big goals, maybe a vacation, a new laptop, or down payment. You park money here specifically so you avoid taking out high-interest loans later.
To protect your future self.
Right.
Yeah.
And bucket 4 is fun and lifestyle dining out, movies. Because the goal isn't to be stingy and miserable your whole life.
And that fourth bucket is critical for your psychological sustainability. I mean, if you don't allow yourself some controlled enjoyment, you're going to
Salary
snap and
credited?
eventually binge spend.
Yeah, it's like a pressure
What?
valve.
Exactly.
Yeah.
By giving every single dollar a job
guess I
on
can
day
afford
one,
that.
you completely eliminate the guilt of spending.
Wow,
I can't
yeah.
believe it.
When you pull from the fun
All of
bucket
this
to
is
buy
due
concert
now.
tickets, you know your future self
I
is
don't know
already
what to
taken
do.
care of because the investments bucket was filled first. It stops overspending dead in its tracks.
Okay, let's unpack this. The pay yourself first idea is basically like eating your vegetables before dessert. But this 4-bucket system makes it feel less like a restrictive diet and more like, I don't know, meal prepping for your wallet. It gives every dollar a job.
That's a great way to put it.
But this brings up a massive question. If the bucket system stops us from bleeding cash today, how do we know if the money in that investments bucket is actually growing fast enough to save us tomorrow?
Right, you can't just guess. You need a benchmark.
Exactly.
And that takes us from the psychology of money right into the cold, hard math of wealth. You need mental models to measure your progress against the wider economy. And the sharpest tool for that in these playbooks is the Rule of 72.
Oh, I love the Rule of 72.
Oh.
It's brilliant because it completely saves you from needing a complex Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah, you can do it in your head.
Exactly. You just take the number 72 and divide it by the annual interest rate you're getting, and that tells you exactly how many years it will take for your money to double.
It's incredibly elegant. So, if you have a fixed deposit or a bond giving you a 7% return, you divide 72 by 7, which is roughly 10.
So 10 years to double.
Right. It takes about 10 years for your money to double. It allows you to evaluate investment pitches in real time.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Let's use this to bust a massive societal myth from the sources. Real estate magic.
Oh, the classic dinner party boast.
We've all been there. Someone brags, oh, my house was worth 10 lakh 20 years ago, and today it's worth 1 crore. It's a 10x increase.
Which sounds amazing.
Right. To the untrained ear, that sounds like unbelievable investing magic.
It sounds like magic until you reverse engineer the math using the Rule of 72.
Break that down.
Okay, so if an asset grows 10 times in 20 years, it means it had to double roughly every 6 years. Think about it. We went from 10 to 20, then 20 to 40, then 40 to 80, and finally nudged up to 100 lakh, or a crore.
Okay, I follow.
So if it's doubling every 6 years, you divide 72 by 6, which gives you 12. The actual annualized rate of return on that spectacular house was only about 12 to 13%.
Which is totally normal. I mean, it's basically what a standard, well-managed mutual fund might do over the exact same period.
Exactly right. It's not magic. It's just time and compounding interest doing their jobs. When you understand the underlying mechanics, you stop being easily manipulated by large numbers stretched over long periods.
But compounding has a dark side, doesn't it? The villain of the story. And that brings us to the Rule of 70.
Yes. If the Rule of 72 is your hero, the Rule of 70 is the invisible thief. This rule calculates the destructive force of inflation.
How does it work?
You divide 70 by the inflation rate to see exactly how long it takes for your money to lose half of its purchasing power. So if inflation is running at 6%, you divide 70 by 6, which is roughly 11.6 to 12 years.
Let that sink in for a second. That means if you have, say, a crore sitting safely in a bank account today, doing absolutely nothing, in 12 years, it will only buy you what 50 lakhs can buy today.
Precisely.
You didn't spend a single dime, but half your wealth just vanished. Your money is literally melting while you sleep.
Which is why the financial playbooks we are analyzing are so adamant that we cannot just blindly copy catchy internet finance rules.
Oh, right, because those rules assume a different economy.
Exactly. A lot of those viral rules were created for Western economies with historically low inflation. When you live in a dynamic higher inflation environment, like India, for example, you have to adjust for that stronger economic gravity.
Okay, give me an example of that adjustment. We constantly hear these catchy rules of thumb, like the famous 4% rule.
Right, the retirement standard.
The internet loves to preach that if you have 25 times your annual expenses saved up, you can safely withdraw 4% a year for retirement without ever running out of money.
And that works beautifully if inflation is hovering at 2%. But the data suggests that in higher inflation environments, relying on a 25x multiple is dangerously risky.
Because the inflation eats the gains too fast.
Right, you could outlive your money. So the strategy must be modified to the 30x retirement rule. If your lifestyle costs a certain amount a year, you need 30 times that amount saved to truly absorb the shocks of inflation over a long retirement.
Wait, and I see from the sources they apply that same localized logic to daily budgeting? Everyone knows the popular 50-30-20 rule.
Right, 50 for needs, 30 for wants, 20 for savings.
But this blueprint adapts it to the 40-30-30 rule, jumping from 50-30-20 to 40-30-30. That means taking 10% away from our basic living essentials and forcing it into investments.
It does.
In an economy with significant inflation, you're basically saying we have to artificially shrink our lifestyle today just to break even tomorrow.
That is the harsh reality. In this modified rule, only 40% goes to essentials. The next 30% goes to savings and investments, and those take absolute priority.
And the rest?
The final 30% is left for your wants. It forces you to prioritize the survival of your future self over the desires of your present self, because inflation is aggressively attacking your purchasing power every single day.
Okay, so we've got the buckets to organize our psychology, and we've got the math to measure our growth and combat inflation.
Right.
But let's be honest, the biggest threat to financial freedom isn't just inflation. The biggest threat is us. It's our own impulse control and lifestyle inflation. The moment we get a promotion, we suddenly feel this overwhelming urge to lease a nicer car or upgrade to a bigger apartment.
It's totally human nature. And to combat this, the strategies lay out some incredibly strict, almost painful boundaries for spending, but act as guardrails against our own impulses.
Let's start with the easiest guardrail, the 7-day cooling off rule.
This is a great one.
If you see something you want, a new smartwatch, a designer jacket, anything non-essential, you force yourself to wait a full week before hitting buy. You're intentionally letting the emotional dopamine high fade.
And 9 times out of 10, you realize you didn't actually need the item. You just craved the biological hit of purchasing it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But the rules get significantly more aggressive when we look at major life purchases. Let's examine the 24-10 car rule.
Okay, this one is mathematically brutal. A car is a depreciating asset, meaning it bleeds value the second you drive it off the lot.
Instantly.
The rule says if you absolutely must finance a car, you have to put 20% down in cash. You cannot take a loan longer than 4 years. And here's the kicker. Your total monthly transportation cost, so that means the EMI, insurance, gas, and maintenance combined, cannot exceed 10% of your gross monthly income.
The reason for that 4-year limit is crucial. A car depreciates the fastest in its first 5 years.
Right.
If you take out a 7-year loan just to get a lower monthly payment, by year 5, you literally owe the bank more money than the car's worth. You are paying interest on vanished value. You are financially underwater.
And what if that total cost does exceed 10% of your income?
The math is entirely unsentimental. You drop down a segment, you buy a used car instead of a new one. No exceptions.
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah.
And they apply an even stricter framework to real estate with the 5-20-30-40 home rule.
Let's hear it.
The maximum price of the house you buy should never exceed 5 times your annual household income. The maximum loan tenure should be 20 years, not 30. Your monthly EMI cannot exceed 30% of your household income.
And the down payment.
You should be aiming to put down a massive 40% as a down payment. Oh, and they also strongly advise avoiding under-construction properties because construction delays will completely destroy your financial timeline.
Let's focus on why that 20-year maximum is so important. A 30-year loan might look cheaper month to month, but the compounding interest over that extra decade is astronomical.
It really adds up.
In many cases, paying for 30 years instead of 20 means you end up buying the house twice. Once for you and once in pure interest for the bank.
Look, I have to push back here. Wait, a 40% down payment on a house and total car cost staying under 10% of your income.
I know, it sounds steep.
Given how expensive the market is today, that sounds almost impossible for the average earner. Are the sources basically telling us to drive beat-up sedans and rent tiny apartments forever while we have decent salaries?
This raises an important question, and it's a completely fair reaction. Yes, these rules feel incredibly restrictive. But they feel restrictive because we have been culturally conditioned to rely on credit to simulate wealth.
To simulate it, yeah.
We are used to over-leveraging ourselves for status. We think we deserve the luxury SUV or the massive house, even if we have to borrow to the absolute hilt to get it.
We prioritize looking wealthy to our neighbors over actually being free.
Spot on. The overarching boundary that ties all this together is the 40% EMI rule. Across all your debt, home, car, education loans, your total EMIs must never exceed 40% of your income. Ideally, under 35%.
Okay.
Think of your monthly income like the structural load capacity of a bridge. Every debt payment is a heavy truck permanently parked on that bridge.
Oh, I like this analogy.
If your bridge is constantly operating at 60 or 70% capacity with massive mortgages and long car loans, it might hold up fine on a sunny day. But what happens when a storm hits?
Like a layoff or a medical emergency.
Exactly. That's a massive gust of wind. The bridge collapses. These rules aren't about denying you luxury. They are about engineering a financial structure that won't collapse during the unexpected tragedies of life.
Wow, the bridge analogy really puts it into perspective. Okay, so let's shift gears. We've plugged all the leaks in our spending. Our bridge is structurally sound.
Yes.
We are living intentionally below our means. Now we actually have cash piling up in that investments bucket we talked about in Section 1. What exact vehicles or assets do we pour that savings into to build wealth while we sleep?
First, we need absolute clarity on what an asset actually is. The fundamental difference from the sources is this. A liability takes money out of your pocket, and an asset puts money into your pocket.
Simple as that. So let's look at the arsenal of wealth. The guides break these down into traditional and non-traditional assets.
Right. Let's start with traditional.
We have real estate,
Right.
which provides rental income plus appreciation. We have gold, which acts as a generational hedge against inflation. It's highly liquid. We have bonds for stability and fixed income. And, of course, mutual funds and stocks for leveraging experts and using SIPs for discipline.
When it comes to allocating your money into equities, the data suggests a fantastic heuristic, the 100 minus age rule.
How does that work?
You take the number 100 and subtract your current age. The resulting number is the percentage of your portfolio that should be in high-growth, riskier equities.
Okay, so if I'm 30,
If you are 30 years old, 100 minus 30 is 70. You have decades to recover from market crashes, so 70% of your investment should be in equities. The remaining 30% goes into safer harbors to anchor your portfolio. As you age, that equity percentage naturally drops.
so what does this all mean? I mean, I find it most compelling that they don't just stop at traditional Wall Street assets. They dive deep into non-traditional assets.
Yes, this is where it gets really modern.
And number one on that list, your own skills. Learning video editing, mastering coding, digital marketing. They define this as a lifetime asset that no one can ever steal from you. It instantly boosts your income potential.
This is a profound shift in thinking. Your mind and your ability to solve complex problems are the ultimate foundation of wealth. From there, you can leverage those skills to build digital assets.
Like what?
Think about creating a YouTube channel, writing an ebook, or designing an online course. You do the hard work to build it once, and because there are no physical manufacturing costs, it has the potential to generate passive income forever.
Exactly. Or consider e-commerce stores. You can now sell products globally while you sleep without the massive overhead of a physical shop. And for those willing to take on more risk, there's venture capital, using small amounts to fund startups. High risk, but massive potential reward.
And the dominant theme running through all of these is the income diversification mandate. The blueprint insists you need a minimum of 3 streams of income. Minimum. Your primary stream, which is your job. A secondary stream, which comes from monetizing a skill. And a passive stream, which is your sleeping, money-like dividends or digital products.
We usually think of assets as just property or gold bars in a vault.
Yeah.
But your own mind, your skills, and a laptop are literally assets that can print money.
And this leads to a very harsh reality check from the sources. The middle class rushes to buy the newest phone, while the rich rush to buy new income streams. Money is multiplied by intention, not by making excuses.
Which brings us full circle. Escaping the autopilot trap and achieving financial freedom isn't about getting a lucky break. It is a daily behavioral discipline.
Absolutely.
It starts with the mindset of paying yourself first using the buckets. It requires constantly measuring your wealth against inflation using the rules of 72 and 70. It demands staying fiercely disciplined with your spending, those strict car and house rules. And finally, aggressively acquiring assets, from mutual funds to your own digital skills.
Ultimately, it is the transition from being a passive consumer of the world to being an active owner of it.
I couldn't have said it better. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a direct, provocative question drawn from the core philosophy of these sources.
Let's hear it.
Think about your main source of income right now. If that single tap broke tomorrow,